good when we say we love God, and that's good. And loving God is very important. It is a commandment. In fact, when Jesus came, he said, love the Lord your God with all your everything. And then he also said something else. He said, also love your neighbor as you love yourself. And this day, so many of us, and it's good, we pride ourselves with how much we love God. But can you take the same pride with you and say that is also how much you love people? The word of God in the book of 1 John chapter 4 says, if anyone says, I love God, yet hates his brother, he is a liar. For anyone who does not love his brother whom he has seen cannot love God whom he has not seen. And he has given us this command, whoever loves God must also love his brother. And this morning, how much room do you have within yourself to love the people of God, to love your brothers, your sisters, your friends, your relatives, your people, the people that God has blessed you with? Do you just love God and that's it? Because the word of God says if you say you love God and you hate your brother, you're a liar. You're not saying the truth. You're not speaking the truth. And so many of us harbor these kinds of bitterness, harbor these kinds of unforgiveness, and yet we are claiming we love God. Yet we are the first people to raise our hands and worship God and be in the presence of God and serve God. Yet we hate our brothers and sisters. Matthew 25 talks about this, says, I was hungry, you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, you invited me. I needed clothes and you clothed me. I was sick, you looked after me. I was in prison and you came to visit. Then the righteous will ask him, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, thirsty and gave you something to drink? Or when did you see and invite you in needing clothes and clothe you? Say, when you did this, and when you went, and so when you did this to whoever, even the least of these brothers of mine, you did it for me. Again, the place of loving people. And so many times we walk unaware that there are people without clothes. We walk unawares. We don't want to bring it to our attention. Yet Jesus said, the poor you will always have. We walk in the same places with people who don't have food, with people who are struggling to even pay school fees for their children. We walk in places where people don't have shelter, and we just don't care. It is not my business to care. It is not my business to worry. But this is going to be the way of judgment. That anytime the righteous, you can see clearly, the word of God says, then the righteous will answer and say, Lord, when did we see you hungry? Meaning there is going to be another category of people who will be asking, God, when did we see you hungry and not give you food? And I would hate for you and I to be in that category of people, where we are wondering, when did Jesus show up and he was hungry and I did not feed him? When did he come without clothes? When was he sick? I didn't go. And Jesus would say, anytime you ignored these people that were living amongst you, you were ignoring me. And obviously, that category is not going to be of the righteous people. And so this morning, how much do you love people? Or I would dare ask, how much do you love God? Because if you love God, then you would love his people. If you don't love his people, then you don't love God. It is as simple as that. The word of God says in the book of Proverbs 3:27-21, withhold not good from them to whom it is due, when it is in your power to do it. Do not say to your neighbor, go and come again tomorrow, when you can actually give it today. Don't say, come back tomorrow. For your neighbor to think and say, let me go to Maria, let me go to Sister Helen, let me go to, Esther, let me go to John, let me go to whoever. For them to think, let me come to you, and you actually have it. Do you think they have led themselves? I know there are people who wamezoea vibaya, but then there are other genuine cases where even the Spirit of the living God can guide you around. But you're saying, come back tomorrow. You're saying, not today. And so your neighbor goes home and they sleep hungry. Do you know if there's a prayer we're not supposed to make is a prayer for people to have food? A lot of God says, give them food. When they come and say, pray with me, my prayer item is that I get food. And if you notice, even when we are making such prayers, I try as much as I can never to make that prayer, because I don't think it's scriptural. When someone says, I've slept hungry, what you need to do is give them food and then pray for other things. That is in the book of James. Pray for other things, but don't pray for food. You can pray for a surplus of food, a supply where it's never ending, but you cannot pray for someone to get the meal for today when you can actually give them, when you should actually give them the provision. And this morning, my question to all of us, and myself, is how much do we love people? Love God, yes, that's good. But you cannot say you love him that you have never seen, while you hate the one that you see on a daily, on a constant. The word of God says in the book of Galatians 6:10, therefore, as we have opportunity, let us do good to all people, especially to those who belong to the family of believers. As we have opportunity, as long as God has given you the chance, the opportunity, the ability, do good. Let us do good to all people, especially. So this is to all people, especially to those who belong to the family of believers. So many times we are going to church and the person next to you doesn't have food, is struggling with something you can meet, but then we just don't care. Sometimes we go to church and we give offerings and it is good. But then there are people in the same churches who don't even have food, who don't even have shelter, who don't even have clothing. And this is especially to our spiritual leaders, humbly. There are people in your congregation that genuinely don't know about tomorrow. They don't even know about the next meal. They are worshiping God, but they did not eat anything that morning. And we are in the house of God. And the word of God says, bring your tithe so that there can be food in the house of God, not just for the priests, but also for people who come to church and they are naked, who come to church and they are hungry, who come to church and they have nothing. You cannot say that you love God, whom you have never seen, and hate your neighbor at the same breath and with the same breath. And this is just to stir us up. People struggling. People having children with, differently, special kinds of children. And those kids, to some extent, unlike other kids, they need extra diapers, and for them, it's almost for the rest of their lives or for a much longer period of time compared to other children. But then you just don't care how this person raises that child. You don't care how much needs there are when you know so well that it is an expense for these women and these fathers and these parents who are raising these kinds of children. But we just don't care. But we're in the house of believers. May God have mercy on us. These are some of the basics that even sometimes anger God. And He is asking, what kind of revival are you asking for when you just hate one another? You can look at someone from a different tribe because the president is from there, or whoever you're supporting is not from there. And we are brethren. We are people who go to church. We are believers. The question in heaven for the righteous will be, thank you because you fed me. Thank you because you came and answered to my need. Thank you for clothing me. Thank you for feeding me. And the question for the rest who are not the righteous will be, you never came to see me in prison. You never came to see me when I was sick. You never clothed me. And you, because you're walking, waiting to see God that you love, God will be like, this brother that you hated was a representative of me. May God help us this morning. The word of God in the book of James 1:27 says, true religion that God our Father accepts as pure and faultless is this: look after the orphans and the widows in their distress, and to keep oneself from being polluted by the world. In other words, to stay pure. How do you look at the poor, and what do you do for them that are in need? This is a question that we need to ask ourselves, and we need to amend correctly where need be. Let us change how we live as believers. Let's love even the people that you feel don't deserve your love, even the people that you feel cannot help you. In fact, that is true character. If you want to know what your character is, look at how you deal with the people who cannot help you. Look at how you deal with people who can never do you any favors. If you deal with them poorly, if you don't care for them, look at how you treat the guards. Look at how you treat your house helps. Look at how you treat the poor. Look at how you treat people who can do you no good. They feel like they can do you nothing. How you treat them, that is your character. That is who you are, not the people who